So glad to be with you. What a privilege, especially to work for a company that is helping people who have some of the most desperate needs in the world. I like helping anyone, anytime, when I have an opportunity. I especially like working with those who are serving others. I also want to commend the company leadership. It's obvious to bring all of us here in a place like this shows a commitment to you, that they care about you. And I appreciate executives who care about the people who work for their companies. That's not necessarily the norm. So to you leaders, I want to just say thank you also for allowing this to happen. I'm called an executive coach. I do leadership training and management training and a lot of things. An awful lot of people don't know what executive coaching is, and those who have heard of it often have a common misconception, which is that coaching is for people who are failing. That somebody is just about to lose their job, call in a coach, sort of like sending them to the principal, and maybe they can save their job. Well, honestly, I've done that a few times with somebody who's kind of on the verge for some reason, usually behavioral, but the great majority of people I work with are very good at what they do. They are some of the brightest, most dedicated, most educated people. They've worked very hard and often reached very high echelons in businesses. But you know what's interesting about them? They still want to get better. And that's where a coach comes in. Just the same way that the best golfers in the world still work with a coach or teacher. Because shaving an extra stroke off your game at that level, PGA championship level, is really hard. It's very hard to do it yourself. It's the same way with high performers, which is why I come and work with people, help them figure out where there's room for improvement, where they can grow, mainly help them figure out what they want to do. Because coaching is not about making people do things against their will. I never do that. My goal is to help them understand themselves at a higher level, figure out what they want to do, because ultimately it's their decision of what they want to work on, what they want to try to improve or learn more about. And then my job, and this is why we call it Sherpa coaching, my job is to give them tools and training and resources, processes to accomplish those things they want to do, as well as teaching processes they can continue to use after I'm finished with it. So the way I'm going to approach this today is I'm going to treat you as if this is a group coaching session. So I'm going to be bringing you some tools, some concepts. Hopefully you can make a lot of progress this week in seeing what you want to do with them. But even more so, as you take them home, you'll find this is an ongoing process, open-ended, because you're not going to achieve perfection in what you're trying to do this week. You may never achieve perfection, so it's going to be an ongoing growth toward an ideal. But that's what you can do if you're willing to put in some effort. You know, hopefully there'll be some aha moments for everyone. That's my hope. And that you'll have one of those moments where you go, ding, I see it. I see what I've been doing wrong, or I see what I need to do right. And I love aha moments. It's my favorite thing that happens in coaching. But I've noticed something about them is they're fleeting. And you may have had this experience that I've had, which is I'll go, oh my gosh, I see it. The lights, the sky has parted. I see the truth. I see what I must do. About 2 months later, I'm going, what was that great idea I had? That's why you have to capture it. I don't believe in accepting all limitations. Obviously, we have some. Some things can't be changed. But an awful lot more can be changed than many people think. Why is this called managing self? Now, originally, as Tessa said, when I was asked about this, they said, do you know how to talk about time management? And I say, yeah, I've done it all the time. In fact, I talk about this with almost everybody I work with. And besides that, I've done seminars on this. And so, yes, I can talk about time management, but you know what the truth is? That's really a misnomer. It's not really about time management. Working across companies, and I mean a wide variety of companies where people's jobs don't look anything alike, it's interesting that so many of the problems are common. I've heard almost the exact same comments from the chief administrative officer of a hospital system and the vice president of a moving company and the pastor of a church. Now, what do those people have in common? You'd think almost nothing. But you know what they're saying? They say, my job feels like it's out of control. They say, I feel like I'm a hamster in one of those wheels. And I'm running all day long, but I'm still in the cage. Or I have a full day, I get into the day, and then it just starts happening. At the end of the day, I feel like I've worked myself half to death. What have I accomplished? Any of you ever felt like that? Okay. It's pretty common. And it's not limited to any particular industry or type of work. The problem isn't managing time. So, here's the takeaways. I'm going to tell you in advance what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do 4 I guess you would call them blocks of sessions. Each will be followed by a break or lunch. And each one is going to be closed with an assignment that I'll ask you to work on, a thought assignment, and occasionally talk to each other about it. And here's what we're going to cover. Number 1, a philosophy for managing your work along with models and tools. Now, a lot of folks, when they hear the word philosophy, immediately their eyes glaze over. They think it's a bunch of pointy-head, geniuses sitting around talking about pertinent questions like, why is there air? Or, how do we know we exist? Now, that's some of that you find in the world of philosophy. That's not what I'm talking about. A philosophy is really just a framework. It's a framework for thinking. It's so you can have organized thoughts and actions. And it's for managing your work, not just managing time, which really can't be done, along with models and tools. So I'm going to give you several ways of thinking, have concepts about how you approach your work. Now, this is an important bullet point. This may involve an attitude adjustment, a mind shift from helpless victim to empowered agent. I run into person after person who talks about their job as if they're helpless. They can't do a thing about it. They're simply assaulted by external forces, stimuli, other people, and they're not in control. Well, I hope that you'll consider this and toss that mindset of helplessness. I don't believe in it. Now, do we have total control over anything in this life? No. But we always have some. It doesn't matter what situation it is, there is always an element or an area where a person has some control. And we're going to talk about what you can control. But if you feel that coming on, fight it off. Don't accept a helpless victim mentality toward your work. It feels so much better to be in control. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's anything that makes human beings feel worse than feeling helpless. So that's the enemy. Fight it. Number 2, I'm going to share a concept in the second block called working at the top of your license. Now, if you've worked with clinical providers, you may have heard this term before. It may mean nothing to most of you. That's okay. By the time we're done with that section, it's going to click with you, and you're going to know exactly what we mean when we say that, and it's going to carry with it a lot of meaning that will help guide you. Kind of like a North Star tells you which way north is. This will help guide you in what direction you're trying to go. Number 3, we're going to talk about a concept I call schedule sculpting, which is intelligently, deliberately shaping your work schedule to accomplish your most important purposes. First, I'm going to introduce this term, working at the top of your license. Now, this comes from the world of medicine. Tessa mentioned I worked 5 years for a large medical company in Dallas-Fort Worth. I did leadership development and executive coaching and creative management training, a lot of things like that. I also did a lot of one-on-one coaching with doctors. Got to know their world pretty well. And I kept hearing this phrase, it's important to work at the top of your license. And of course, I asked, well, what does that mean? And they described it to me, and I kind of worked up a diagram to explain it. It's very simplified, and you have a copy of this. If you imagine a window that's all the possible activities that a physician is authorized and able to do, it would be the window from the top or the bottom, the blue from the top to the bottom. So a physician has a literal license of what tells them they are legally able to do. And so let's say this particular doctor can do state-of-the-art surgery. That would be the top of his or her license. Now, what's the bottom of this window? Well, those are average, ordinary, everyday medical things that happen to any one of us if we go to a doctor's office. And you all know what happens. As soon as you check in, and after you wait a while, you get to go in, and you meet someone, and what's the first things they do to you? Step on the scale. Check your temperature. Check your blood pressure. You know, they used to stick the thermometer in your mouth. Now it's in your ear. And they've got all these fancy ways of doing things. But that's what they do. So my question to you is, could a surgeon do those things? Of course. A surgeon's totally capable and authorized legally to take your blood pressure and have you step on the scale. My question is that a good use of a doctor's knowledge, expertise, education, and experience? And the answer is, of course, it's not. And not only is it not a good use of those things, how much does a doctor get paid? Now, it depends, of course, on the doctor, but we could be talking many hundreds of dollars an hour to thousands of dollars an hour. Let's say a neurosurgeon, they are way up there on the scale. So how much would it be worth an hour to have a neurosurgeon do those menial things? It doesn't make any sense. To spend $500 to have your weight taken. So the drumbeat in the world of medicine is we need all these folks working in the upper regions of what they're capable of doing. Now you've got these other grades, physician assistants and nurse practitioners. Nowadays you go to a doctor's office with a kind of an ordinary problem, you may not even see a physician. You may see the nurse practitioner. And she can do exactly the same thing as a doctor can. Diagnose the problem, here's what you need, and write a prescription. Now they get highly paid too, so they've got a window. They want them working in the upper regions. But then you've got a next group. You've got registered nurses, licensed vocational nurses. And at the bottom of this scale, I know it's really more complicated than this. You've got medical assistants who have a few months of training possibly, who get paid $10 to $15 an hour. So if you're going to pay someone to get on a scale or take their temperature or blood pressure, do you want to pay somebody $12 an hour or $1,200 an hour? And it makes perfect sense economically. You want those people doing what they should and can be doing at the upper regions. Okay, now that's just an illustration. As a non-clinical person in this company, listening to them talk about this, I realized pretty quick, you know what? This concept applies to every job. Jobs to any job and any business. To leadership of CEOs, directors, managers, and so you just translate it. So now the windows illustrate the different grades you find in authority in a company. So you've got the CEO or president at the top, and then you've got vice presidents, directors, managers, and employees. And of course, that's, again, more stratified in real life than that. But you get the point. So what is a CEO responsible to do? They're responsible for the overall leadership, the culture, the people, the direction, the results of an entire company. Now, is the CEO of a company capable of sweeping the floors, taking out the trash? Are they capable of going to the office supply store and making copies? Of course. Is that a good use of the CEO's expertise, knowledge, and skill and their responsibilities? And the answer is, of course, not. So in the business world, has nothing to do with medicine. This translates to the fact that that person, man or woman, has an upper region of their window where it's the most important things they personally should do. And then there's a next echelon of things that need to be done, but not necessarily by them, which is where delegation and working with a team comes in. And then you allow other parts of the organization to do the other things. I have a real life story. I was working with a regional director of a company, and this lady, very sharp, very hardworking. And one day she came in for a Monday afternoon coaching session. And she looked tired. And I said, "You look tired." And she said, "I am tired and I'm sore." I said, "Well, why are you tired and sore?" Well, she said, "Well, I've spent Thursday night, Friday night, and all day Saturday moving one of our offices into a new place. We had to carry boxes. We had to move a refrigerator. We had to do this. We had to do that." And I'm sitting there looking at her, and I'm thinking, I'm not in the business of guessing a lady's age, but I know she has kids college age and high school, and moving boxes and refrigerators. So I asked her an obvious question. I said, why did you do that? And she said, to save the company money. And I said, I didn't know you were working for free. Well, she goes, what do you mean? I said, all right, do you realize you could have had a company move that material for roughly minimum wage or not much more? Much cheaper. How much? I asked her, figure out your annual salary and divide it by the rough number of hours in a work year. Figure out how much you would estimate you make per hour. And then I said, she figured it out, and I said, don't tell me, but I'm going to guess it's $50 an hour. Our company just paid you $50 an hour to move boxes and refrigerators when they could have paid somebody else $15 an hour. See, she thought she was saving money, but she didn't take into account what she was being paid. And I said, on top of that, and this is even more important for a leader, what were you not doing when you were doing those things? You were not leading your people. You were not mentoring other managers. You were not overseeing the higher level of work you should be doing. Do you see the point? Do you see the thinking that comes into this? So, I'm going to suggest to you that even if you're an individual contributor and you don't manage anyone else, that you have a metaphorical window, a license, so to speak, and you have an upper region of things that are most important for you to be doing. That they have the greatest impact on the results that you're trying to attain and what you're being held responsible for. Now, it may not be just one thing. I'm not suggesting there's one thing at the top of the license. It could be a list of 10 things that are the critical factors that contribute to your success. Now, the question is, do you know what they are? What I find, and this is another interesting observation I get from working with all these people in all these different companies, I find no matter what company it is, no matter what level the person is I'm talking to, they tend to be working about the mid-range of their window. Now, as to why, that's kind of another discussion. Some of it's habit. Some of it is the job has grown and they've forgotten to grow with it. There's several reasons, but I'm not so concerned with why at this point. But it's pointing out to them that they're doing things they ought not to be doing if they want to be most effective. So what does it mean to work at the top of your license? In essence, it ends up being the highest and best application of you toward your most important functions. The highest and best application of you